All right, now listen, power and control are issues in every relationship. Now, sometimes that's due to personality differences, sometimes that's exerted to the control of assets or resources, but every relationship, no matter how dysfunctional or healthy, deals with power struggles on some level. Now, in healthy relationships, partners allow their partner to influence them because they care about their thoughts and opinions, they value that, and they want what's best for them. But that influence can cross over a line into controlling behavior and now becomes dysfunctional and toxic in a relationship. So in this video, I want to give you 4 ways that I believe controlling behavior can actually hurt your relationship rather than help it. That's today on Relation Shots. Hey, welcome to Relation Shots. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you're not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, you'll click the link in the description area below. If you're looking for ways to consistently strengthen your relationship, I promise you want to be a part of our Altered Marriage membership. It's a community of couples that are strengthening their relationship. You got access to resources and tools and worksheets and live Zoom calls, all kinds of stuff. So check that out in the description area below as well. All right, so I need you to listen. I need you to focus. I need you to look at me, pay attention, remove all distractions that may be in the room right now. Just kidding. See, I was actually controlling behavior right there. See what I did with the control? Okay. Seriously though, here's the reality. Every relationship has a little bit of power struggle, right? When we decide where we want to go out to eat, there's a little bit of struggle where we try to influence each other into what we desire, what we're hungry for, right? That's a healthy relationship. We influence one another. But we can always cross a line in trying to control the other person, and oftentimes our controlling behavior comes out of our greatest fears. I've talked about that in past videos. But when controlling behavior enters into a relationship, every single time that relationship is going to suffer because of it. And there's such a thin line, sometimes we're not quite sure when we've crossed over into trying to influence versus trying to control, and we like to lie to ourselves, so sometimes it's really hard to tell. So in this video, I want to talk about 4 ways that controlling behavior actually hurts your relationship. And the reason I'm doing this is that we all have a tendency. Some of us have a tendency to be the controller, and some of us have a tendency to give in and allow others to control us. Whether you're on one side or the other, either way, it could be hurting the relationship. I want to make us aware of that. So 4 ways that controlling behavior may be hurting your relationship. Number 1 is that control always involves punishment. Now, when we cannot influence the other person to do what we want them to do, or in order to get the things that we desire, punishment is sure to enter into the equation because it's a great tactic in order to control another person. But when we begin to punish, whatever we punish with actually changes the role of that thing in the relationship, right? So some of the ways we punish are maybe we withdraw, we pull away to cause distance between us just to get them to react somehow. Maybe we withhold communication, give them the silent treatment. Maybe we withhold sex, or maybe we restrict or limit their ability to get to finances. But every time we use any aspect of relationship as a punishment tool, we now have changed the role of that thing in our relationship, which is going to hurt the relationship, right? So if I withhold sex as a tactic, a punishment tactic, now I've changed the role of sex from being connection and intimacy to now it's just a reward for giving in to the thing that I want from you. I've changed the whole dynamic of it. If I use withdrawal of communication, the silent treatment, as a punishment, now I've changed the role of communication in the relationship from something that is for connection and intimacy building to something that is either given or taken away based on performance of the other person. And now I've changed the dynamic of communication in our relationship. So listen, when we try to control, we will inevitably use punishment. And when punishment comes into a relationship, it is going to erode trust and intimacy and end up hurting the relationship. Number 2, control requires criticism. Now, I've done videos in the past on criticism and how that's one of the predictors of divorce in a relationship. But listen, when you can't get the person to do the things you want them to do, inevitably criticism is coming right behind it. And we have no shortage of examples of this in our culture today, right? We got the angry athletic coach that's all over the kids because they're not playing right or doing it. We got frustrated parents who think they can criticize their kids into conformity and behavior. We got spouses who are angry and say things like, you never fill in the blank, when the reality is what they want is the fill in the blank. And so they think if they criticize their spouse around that area, they'll somehow get that thing out of them. But I can tell you, both from experience and from working with a lot of couples, criticism is a terrible way to get behavior change. You may get it in the short term, but long-term behavior change, what you really want in the relationship, criticism is a terrible way to get what you want out of the other person, because it inevitably leads to my thought number 3, which is control causes resentment. Yeah, so you may be in a relationship where one person is easygoing and usually gives in most of the time, but oftentimes, even as they're giving in, resentment is building in them towards a relationship. Now, you may not be aware of it because they seem to be giving in. They may not even be aware of it because they're used to giving in. But one day, when they wake up and the resentment has built so much, they're not interested in the relationship anymore. And resentment is a relationship killer. I can tell you from working with tons of couples, when resentment has built up over time in a relationship, when it's finally expressed, and that's the problem sometimes because it's not being expressed, so the controller has no idea what they're causing, and sometimes the person being controlled doesn't really know what's going on inside of them. But when that resentment builds up and is finally expressed, it is not easily or quickly overcome and healed. That's a long process in relationship. You do not want resentment building up in your relationship. And number 4, control erodes respect. Right? In a relationship, if you're controlling the other person, that person at some point is going to have a hard time respecting you because they feel like you don't respect their opinions, you don't value what they bring to the table. And like I said before, resentment is building up. It's going to be hard to respect somebody that you feel like is always rolling over you, is always stepping on top of you, is always pushing you around. It's hard to respect that person. And if you're the controller, if you're honest with yourself, the fact that you can push this person around, you can get them to do whatever you want, you can control them, it may make you feel secure in the moment, but it's hard to respect somebody that never has an opinion, that always goes along with what you say, that's not adding any value to your life. So honestly, both the controller and the controlled lose respect for one another in a relationship, and mutual respect is needed in a healthy relationship, and the control is going to erode that respect in the relationship. You're not going to be in a good place, even though in the moment, the control makes you feel good and secure. Long-term, respect is gone, and that's a difficult relationship to keep together. So there's 4 things of many we could probably go through, 4 ways that control and controlling behavior will actually hurt your relationship. So listen, whether you have the tendency to be a controller, and sometimes we do because out of fear, we want to control our circumstance so that we don't experience our greatest fear, or you have a tendency to be the controlled because you want to make peace and you want to try to preserve the relationship, and maybe you're even fearful the relationship will end if you don't give in every time. Whether you're on either side, control will inevitably hurt your relationship in much greater ways than not having control, and mutually respecting one another will actually get you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, maybe some ways that you either see control, or maybe even ways, if you're honest with yourself, that you tend to control in a relationship and why you do that. Drop those in the comment section below. Love to hear about that. Again, if you need to work on your relationship, and the answer is you need to work on your relationship, it doesn't get better just by happenstance or chance, join our Altered Marriage membership. You'll find everything you need in the description area below. If this video was helpful, consider sharing it with a friend, and I'll see you right back here next time on Relation Shots.